It's that time of year when I am storing away old planners, making preparations to archive or discard. These three planners represent planners that I did not make through even half the year with after purchasing them. Two of them were purchased late in the year. And so I thought I'd take a look at those. Before I go into this video, I did want to acknowledge the tragic events in Australia at Bondi Beach over this past week. It's the country where I grew up. I was born and raised there. And my hearts go out to all Aussies that are dealing with the aftermath. I think I will mention that two planners here I didn't complete, but I didn't count them in my planner graveyard. One being a Hightide that started October 2024, made it through October in this planner before I received my rings, 2026 ring inserts from Sterling Ink, and because they're modular and I couldn't wait to get into them, I redated the Sterling Ink inserts, and I didn't feel bad about it because this got a year of use, almost to the day. So this I've kept because next year when I run out in October, I could go back into this if I feel like A6, this is an A6 size. They're already pre-punched for rings, so I could use them if I feel like using cream paper. I'm sure there'll be new offerings at this time next year, which is, kind of a lot to think about. I don't want to think about that. That's too early. And so this one I feel got use out of it. Definitely more than 50%. Same with this. I only purchased this Sterling Ink Passport Vertical Compact in February. It actually was the end of February when I received it. And I had been waiting for these planners to go on discount. It was my first year in Sterling Ink, and I thought that most planner companies out there in the real world, not online, but my in-person stores seem to discount them around that time of year, but they did not. So it was only the start of end of February that I was able to get into this planner. I used this planner right through November. You can see the ghosting from the other page. So that was my last week. This is when I received my 2026 planner that I was intending to replace this with, and found that it started in September and realized it was a really good fit for the cover of this planner. And this one I had to, I'm sorry if this bothers anyone, I'd had to cut the back cover so that I could try and fit it into the new cover I had, and the cover was getting a little damaged. So I was keen to get out of this because I do love that cover and I love this size. I think there's something about this square size versus these are more rectangular, but this kind of proportion is the same as the B6 to me. And the B6 is what I use regularly. And I went through, let's say I didn't purchase any B6 that I didn't get through this year. So these two I feel have definitely had more than 50% of the year. I don't count them in my planner stack. Again, when we get to those blank pages, November, December next year, I may want to jump back into this when I'm thinking about options and redate it. So I'm not concerned. And I guess the only other planner here that I would do that with, I think, is this A5. And this one, I really think that I could get some traction in. 2 months is not a long time if I was using the others, but this one I purchased, it's an A5 vertical. It's the Part 2 2025, and as you can probably tell, I like a good deal. So these were, these was, I think it was $66 at the start of 2025 to get the 2 parts. And it costs more because obviously you've got 2 bound covers, and I think you do get extra pages. So it becomes like more than a full year, but it's a nice slim profile. I found it a little too expensive for me with other planners already, on the go to purchase last year. But when they discounted this to just the part 2, it became $33. It was halfway through the year. And I think from memory, and actually I remember now, I had purchased this as a gift, and then it was too nice to give away. And there's a part of me that, you know, it's hard to give planners as a gift because you don't know if the person already has a planner or if they'll even want it. So this one I only got through from the first week of July when this started. So you can see that's the first week of July, and I started there, and then I made it only through the week of, this is September. So I only made it through mid-September, so that's only 2.5 months. And again, this was kind of replaced by going back into rings here. This is the last week of August. This is the 31st, and I had just started, obviously didn't use this page. I was using one side of the page for my fridge and hanging this up as a family calendar, but then I started putting it into rings. So so I went from here to here when Sterling Ink announced the rings. This is less than 50% because it was a 6-month planner. I only used 2.5 months. It's just on the borderline. But there is a good amount of, you know, empty. It was also a vertical format, and that is not my standard format. So I actually know that I will want to reconsider that, and I'm hoping that, you know, I think with the rings, when I switched into it around this time next year, I may be again wanting to redate. So I'll have some options, and I can actually kind of plan to jump around in my planners this time next year, September, October, November, December, the last quarter. I think that's going to be kind of fun to do, jump around with permission without feeling guilty because these have already been purchased and used. So I was happy to, you know, kind of consider that. It's looking a little worse for wear because it was stuck in the bottom of my drawer. I think I'll continue on with Sterling Ink to carry it through. This was another planner I had kind of looked at, but I think the common theme is these were purchased after the start of the year. So these were not my gut instinct. And I think that's kind of I wouldn't call it an impulse buy because I really watched it and I got an imperfect, I haven't worked out what was imperfect about it. So it was like slightly discounted and I was worried it was going to sell out. So I really wanted to try this large size. You know, this is an A5, and then this is a B5. The A6, I think, A6 is half of A5. B6 is half of B5. I don't have a B6 here to show, but yeah, I wanted the extra space. And if you just look at it, well, this is a normal week. There's so much space. It's so nice. What happened to me was partly this was for home use. It's hard to carry this around even in the home. I thought that I wasn't going to have trouble at home, but it's hard for me to balance, especially when the spread's open. It's not so bad when there's no spread, but when the spread is open, you can't balance it on one hand. Even in this film, you can barely get it in the view and you can't write on it. Of course, you can flip it over, but even then, it's not that easy to do compared to if you had one of these ones. It's way easier to write on the go. So I'm often on the go. I've got 2 young children. I'm often following them around while planning, as comical as that may seem. The other thing was I had a lot of blank space on these layouts, and I would feel bad week after week, or sometimes I wouldn't even get to my to-do list. Trying to see. So you can see I only bought this the end of April. So I really thought about whether this was going to be cost effective. And then by the same token, I was considering whether I could redate the start of the year. But the problem is this size is just so big. Maybe I can use it for my fridge again. That might be an option. But even for the fridge, it's a pretty large footprint. And I don't know about Tomoe River paper. So it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful layout. The one thing it would work for me would be work. It actually fits really nicely on my laptop. And it has a slim profile. I got the compact horizontal B5. But the problem is, as I said, I like how you can write over the front pages, and I don't want to show what I wrote because it was for work. But I wrote in at the start of January in a work meeting page, and I'm kind of frustrated that I did that because it means you can see it here. This is the first week of January, but then I have just a couple of, it's like 2 pages from a meeting that I took in the middle of the year and thought, oh yeah, I'll just write over these so I'm making use of them. I like having everything for work in one planner so I could paste in something, but it will become a problem also with my monthlies. Days I future planning them so they were fully used. And so, yeah, end of June, I switched. So you can see that week of the 30th, I had switched into the A5. This would be work that I feel like, unless I have a project or something, I'm not sure if I'll use these dateds for actual redating. Having said that, even this week, I was still using these pages for meeting notes, and they're just so good. It's the right size, and everything on the big scale. I mean, that is so pretty in the calendar card in the big size, and I love this illustration from this year. So yeah, I'm going to continue using it for work, and there's a particular meeting. It's a large case conference that we do. It's semi-regular, but not enough that I'll be filling this up anytime soon. It will probably be multiple years worth in here. So that's nice for me to have everything in one place. I know I could do a notebook, but it's not that precious. But it's nice to be able to use my fountain pens in that meeting. So yeah, I have a purpose for this, and it's ongoing, and I just used it this week for that. So I'm comfortable. This was, a waste. It was a waste in terms of the planner side, and I was too trigger happy to I hadn't thought about redating when I wrote in those January pages, and I'm just kicking myself because it was the same kind of meeting I'm recording in the back. So I could have just recorded on the blank notes. I don't know what I was thinking. It was in the moment for sure. This one was in some ways the least expensive planner in my stack. It's a Leuchtturm, and I don't know if I say that correctly, but it's a Leuchtturm 1917, and this is, they call it the pocket. I think I've also seen it referenced. My receipt said A6, and it was for 2025. So this was really my most expensive in other ways, even though the cost of the planner was low. I could only find it at a online pen store, and this is my own problem, but instead of paying the shipping, which often ends up the same or a large percentage of the planner, I instead paid for their minimum shipping threshold. I think it was $65. So in some ways this cost the same as the 2 that I was waiting and held off on. And it's good to try the brands. I was confident because I had used the vertical, but it was in the A5 size the previous year, and I had gotten that on a discount. And my plan had been to use this at church for my weekly reflections at church, writing notes on the homily. However, for personal reasons, I didn't make it to church, a number of reasons, and I have a lot of gaps. So that is just something that changed in my life. And it's one of those things. Everyone has their own way of handling kids with church. So that's I was finding that I was at church often on my own. When I would take my kids, we would you know, I could just see that they were so bored out of their brains and they were trying really hard to be good. And it's a church where, you know, and it's quiet and they don't have a Sunday school set up for the kids my children's age. So I felt like it was almost cruel to do that. I grew up going to church because my parents felt that that was how you kind of instilled that. And I don't have bad memories of it. I do, you know, enjoy going. And so I don't know what the right thing to do is, but I feel like it's hard work for them. And there's a few other reasons too. So anyway, that one is just a change in life, and that's something that happens. So these are my 3 unfinished business. Yeah, like I said, I've got plans for these 2. I don't really have plans for this one. I don't think I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'll do with this. Maybe to remind myself about hardcover pockets. I don't know if they'll release them in future. Yeah, and the cream paper. I think this is more cream. Yeah, it's cream paper. So yeah, not sure about that. So while we're talking about unfinished business, I have a dilemma. My work planner this year was an N1 tweed sterling ink common planner. Love it. I've made it all the way through. This pocket was for 2026. I've got it stored away, ready to start using in January. Originally, it had been intended to replace my everyday carry, which was this one in my cover, but it's not a perfect fit. It would definitely require more cutting than this. I would have to cut the top and the bottom, which I don't like doing to planners, especially not one that's brand new. And then I found the insert that works really well, a spiral for my current everyday carry planner. And as much as I don't like that planner as much, it's, you know, definitely inferior to this sterling ink, but it's everyday carry and I don't open it every day. It's just for making appointments on the go. And I had been contemplating whether I should gift this to someone else. I have one planner friend that really got use out of a planner I gifted last year, but that was in the N1 size. And then this one, I could make it work for work, so it would be in combination with this for meeting notes. So I'm trying to figure out whether I keep this or whether I move it on to someone who'll love it, because I know there are a lot of covers that are designed for pockets and I feel a little guilty. I saw it sold out on the website and I'm kind of forcing this to fit my needs. It's, if I'm being honest, it's too small for work. I can make it work because work, I only use a paper planner for a very small component. I'm just tracking a certain component of work by paper, but there is a weekly meeting that I record here that it wouldn't fit. I know that. So I would be in the back pages, and then I think that's a little more clunky than what I would like. So I get rid of that. So what I've done is I've done what I didn't want to do, and I did make a purchase. This is from Jet Pens. I was watching these sell out. This is the one I want to open. I was watching these Maduri MDs sell out, and I bought one last year and gifted it to someone. It's easy to gift because it's very, very simple and aesthetic, I think. And it's not that expensive that if they don't use it, it's a waste. So this is a Maduri MD paper, MD notebook diary, and it's for 2026. This is the B6 Slim size. And so you only get a monthly, and then you have memo pages. And so it comes with some stickers in the front. I think these are for, this sticker, this is for archiving. It's pretty, from the Library of Start Finish volume. Yeah, that's for archiving. And then, oops. There is a cardstock cover. I'm going to open that after at the end. We can go through. Story of 2026. Yearly overview for 2026, and it's small. There's a lot of white space up here, but a lot of times I need that to actually, I'll put a little dot somewhere that I'm marking, either federal holidays or vacation. This is 2027, so it is nice to see that. I like how they've got it on a spread together, and it's just what you need. There is some Japanese that I'm not really sure what it says. I think it's Japanese. But most of it is understandable. And the paper feels really nice. It is definitely a cream paper. Let's see. This is white paper here. I'm still, or more white, I would say. So you can see, yeah, definitely cream. Even on the camera, that's showing up. I would say it's more obvious to the naked eye. And then I can see these are, okay, so there's Sundays are circled. That's kind of subtle, so it's nice. I'll keep turning so that there is a little bit of ghosting I can see. And there are, I would say this is not an American holiday. January 12th. January 1st is. I don't know what January 4th is. So I think, oh, that's a Sunday. So I think in my Hightide, these were red. And so that stood out to me more. But I don't love having things I don't understand, and I don't know, I know that makes it very limited because Japanese planners are really beautiful. But yeah, I'm always like, what does that actually say though? And then here I'm even thinking maybe I got the language wrong. I don't mean to be ignorant, but some of these look like, yeah, I'm not sure to my eyes without knowing anything except some basic Chinese Mandarin in high school. So I don't know what they say, but this is for work, so it's going to bother me less. I think in something that I'm using for my personal use, I think, or definitely for memory keeping, I think it would trouble me. And the thing is, I didn't realize that they had those. Somehow I kind of missed that. I do watch ahead of time to see if I can look at layouts, but I guess I missed that part. So these go through to December. The paper feels, January. These are monthlies all together. The paper feels really nice. And then this is what I like the most about this planner for my work situation right now, is the rest of the planner is technically just notes pages. There is a ribbon tucked in here, just one. And what I really like is that there's this subtle division and you can just see they've marked out a darker line if you should wish to use it, but you can use it just as a regular page, and I'm sure it would disappear in the background if you use the whole page. But this is will work for Monday, Tuesday, the 7 days of the week, and then one extra section for either to-dos, follow-ups, time recording. So it's really versatile in that sense. And also it won't force me to use it by week, because sometimes the project I'm tracking will have weeks go by without work on it, or only a day here and there. And so in my work planner, I feel a little guilty. On the one hand, I need space, but on the other, it's not regular. So this way I feel I'll be able to use, I've got a date stamp, like an old library date stamp that I can use when I'm entering for these dates, so that the undated part doesn't, add a lot of time. The end, you get an, I guess you can put your personal details in there. There's more writing that I don't understand, but it's probably the standard stuff in the back. And then a couple of totally, that is, it's like a little mark. Yeah, it's kind of, don't know what that was. And these are blank pages. The paper feels so nice. It's very, it's thick but not too thick. I don't know, I'm not very good at explaining. So yeah, these aren't numbered, but I rarely need to cross-reference. It's more for documenting, for work. And then I think there's enough for the whole year from memory. So, and if not, I've got, other things I can jump into if I had to, or I'm sure I could use the blanks. So yeah, nice little layout. Oh, and then this says to be continued on the very last page. That's sweet. Okay, 2027. So here's the actual, it's a cardstock. It's not as sturdy as the these kind of PU leather, but there's something about cardstock that I really like. I like the non-plastic, and this won't get too beaten up. It stays on my desk. I can already tell that even though it's a modest difference in size, this is the B6 Slim, this is the Pocket, it's going to be more user-friendly for me with being able to meaningfully put that in. And it also means that my work meetings, that weekly meeting, I could dedicate a whole page if I wanted to. It will give me more flexibility. Something that I do often do in a grid is I turn the book sideways. So even on this page, I could turn it sideways and write this way because it's a grid. But unfortunately, that's still not going to, I can tell it's not enough. Whereas going across here for that weekly meeting, sometimes our weekly meeting only needs this much, and then other times it could be 2 spreads. So maybe, not usually 2, it would normally be 1. But I think this is the one I'm going to have to use. So I don't like, I even thought, should I be taking down my Pocket unboxing if I'm going to sell this? I didn't buy this intending to sell it. So I didn't unbox it intending to move it on. But I think that's probably the best use of this planner to avoid it ending up in my graveyard for next year. Especially considering that I have this size. Technically, I have a Pocket already that I could jump into during the year, and I have, you know, these ready to go for the end of the year. If I should want something smaller, I could always repurpose those. But like I said, work, I like to have it in one book. It's just documenting that one portion. So I think I'm gonna be moving this on unless I can think of someone to give it to, because it's beautiful. And Christmas isn't here yet. But yeah, like I said, I like to think about making sure it's kind of a personal thing to gift a planner. Okay, so what else have we got? The other thing that came in my little purchase was, and again, I did this for the shipping threshold. This was very inexpensive. This, I think, was $17. May have been slightly more, maybe in the 20s, but it was less expensive than the smallest sterling ink, and possibly the same kind of pricing as the Hightide. This is a Hobonichi notebook. So this is 3-pack, yep, and I'll just leave that there. 3-pack of notebooks. Don't really care for the grey, but I'm sure it will work. I don't have my my EDC is in my purse, which is not by my side right now. But I had purchased this to put in the back because I am in my non-sterling ink planner that I've got in there. I am missing the notes pages, and I do have a notebook that I could use from Sterling Ink, which also has grid, but these, I understand, yeah, I can see it here. There's a little arrow, and I'm assuming that means the perforation is there. Yeah, I can feel it. Yeah, that's the perforation right there. So you can probably see it better there. Yep. So that's perforated. So that's really handy for my everyday carry, because I'm often, it's, some of the notes are for me, but some I want to, you know, like, for example, this week I've been writing out my address at FedEx, or the intended address, and it's just so much easier if I can just rip it out and give them a page instead of handing over my whole book. And so if I'm writing down something for someone, I can just rip it out. Also, by the same token, I can rip out the pages I've written and store them together with something else. So I thought that was, and then there's a very slim profile. I will have to cut the cover. I was aware of that. And the sizing wasn't quite right. I can't remember what size this was. I think this was called, let me see if it's on my receipt. I think it was called Pocket. Memo pad. No, this was called A6. And you can probably see now that I think, so this is the true A6 size. Ignore just the pink, ignore the overhang. But I think these are designed for being able to fit inside the A6 cover, which that looks really nice in there. So I purchased the A6 because I think the height one of the dimensions is correct for my pocket, so I will end up cutting this down. I don't feel too bad about that, because it's a very small notebook and they're intended to be torn up, so that'll be okay. So I think that's all that I purchased. Let me see. Oh, and I bought a bottle of ink to get the threshold. So yes, plan a graveyard, trying to avoid a plan a graveyard with this one, and then some final purchases for the year. Thank you for taking a moment to look back on 2025 and what didn't work for me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.